Last season, I harvested maybe 30 tomatoes off 6 plants. The plants looked massive, healthy, green, and completely useless. I used to think giant tomato plants meant success. Turns out it usually means the opposite. And once I figured out what was actually going wrong, specifically in this window right here in mid-May, everything changed. Same garden, same soil, buckets of tomatoes all the way through September. So let me show you what I actually do now, because most of this nobody is talking about. And the stuff people do talk about, they usually explain it backwards. Here is where I start every single time. I get down low and I look at the bottom of each plant. Not a quick glance while I'm walking past. I crouch down, take my time, and actually look. Because what is happening at the base of your tomato plant right now is quietly building either a great harvest or a really disappointing one. And most gardeners have no idea it is even happening. Those lower leaves, the ones sitting close to the soil, they are not feeding the plant in any meaningful way at this point. What they are doing is catching water. Every time it rains or you water, droplets hit the soil and splash back up. And that splash carries fungal spores straight onto the plant. Listen, the soil is not just dirt. It is a living ecosystem, and not everything in it likes your tomatoes. There are millions of microscopic spores in there waiting for a ride. When rain hits the surface, those spores catch the droplets and land on the underside of your lower leaves. You will not see it. You will walk past and think the garden looks great after a rain. But underneath, the infection is already moving. By the time you see the first blight spots in late June, it has been spreading for weeks. It started right here, in May, while everything still looked fine. By removing those lower leaves now, you are not just cleaning up. You are removing the landing strip. You are breaking the infection cycle before it even gets started. So every leaf below the first flower cluster comes off with clean scissors. I try to keep 6 to 8 inches of bare stem between the soil and the first leaves. Open air, nothing for disease to climb. This one habit alone cut my fungal problems dramatically. And it takes maybe 3 minutes per plant. While I am already down there, I deal with suckers. A sucker is the small shoot growing in the joint between the main stem and a branch. Ignore it for 2 weeks and it becomes another full stem. Ignore it for a month, and you have got what I call a tomato bush. 6 feet of green growth in every direction, looks incredible, produces almost nothing. I have seen it happen every single season. Somebody waters faithfully all summer, brags about how big their plants are, and then in August, they cannot figure out why their neighbor is drowning in tomatoes while they are getting a handful. Usually, it is suckers, almost always. For indeterminate varieties, which is most popular heirlooms and a lot of hybrids, I keep 1 or 2 main stems and remove everything else. Brandywine, Cherokee Purple, Beefsteak, Mortgage Lifter, all of those are indeterminate. Keep them focused. 2 stems maximum. Let the energy go toward fruit, not foliage. Now let me talk about fertilizer, because this is where people usually go wrong in May. Too much nitrogen right now creates beautiful plants. Dark green, wide leaves, impressive structure. And then production collapses later because the plant spent everything building leaves instead of flowers and fruit. The plant already knows how to make leaves. It does not need your help with that. What it actually needs right now is roots and flowers. So I switched to a fertilizer that is lower in nitrogen and higher in phosphorus and potassium. Something in the range of 5-10-10, about 2 tablespoons worked into the soil around each plant, watered in well, every 2 to 3 weeks. Too much nitrogen tells the plant to keep getting bigger. The problem is we do not need bigger. We need tomatoes. Here is something I started doing a few years ago that I genuinely cannot believe I went so long without. After pruning and feeding, I mound 2 to 3 inches of compost mixed with garden soil up around the base of each plant. Tomatoes can grow roots straight out of their stem wherever it contacts moist soil. More roots means more capacity to pull water and nutrients. More capacity means more fruit. Then I lay 3 inches of mulch on top of that mound. Straw, shredded leaves, wood chips, whatever is available. That combination holds moisture in the soil, keeps the temperature steady on hot days, and cuts way down on the splash problem we just talked about. Honestly, once this is set up, the plants just run. Now let me tell you the thing about watering that took me way too long to understand. Watering a little bit every day feels responsible. It feels like you are caring for something. But what you are actually doing is keeping moisture in the top few inches of soil, which trains the roots to stay shallow. And shallow roots are fragile roots. Think of your tomato plant as a giant straw. It is constantly pulling water up from the ground and pushing it out through the leaves to stay cool. When the sun gets aggressive in May and those roots are shallow, that straw is empty by 2 in the afternoon. The plant wilts. The leaves curl up. Everything stops. No growth, no fruit development, just survival mode. When you water deeply, you are creating a reservoir far down in the soil. A deep well the plant can draw from even when the air temperature is pushing 90 degrees. And here is what most people never connect until it is too late. This is also what prevents blossom end rot later in the season. That ugly dark patch on the bottom of the fruit that shows up in August. Most people blame calcium. The real problem is usually inconsistent watering. The plant cannot take up calcium properly when it keeps going through wet and dry cycles at the surface. Deep, consistent watering that you start right now in May is what prevents it. So I water deeply twice a week, enough to push moisture 8 to 10 inches down, and then I let the top layer dry out before I water again. That drying is not neglect. It is training. The roots chase the water downward, and by midsummer, those plants have deep root systems that barely notice the heat. Always water at the base, not on the leaves. Wet foliage going into the evening is an open invitation for fungal problems. A soaker hose or drip line is the best upgrade you can make for tomatoes because it puts the water exactly where it needs to go without touching the plant at all. One more thing before we wrap up, and this one is quick. Check every stake, every cage, every tie right now while the plants are still manageable. Loaded tomato branches are surprisingly heavy, and they snap after thunderstorms. They fall over exactly when you least want to deal with it. I use 5-foot wooden stakes driven at least a foot into the ground and tie the main stem loosely every 8 to 10 inches using soft twine. Loose enough not to cut in. Firm enough to actually hold. Spend 10 minutes on this now and you will not be out in the rain in July trying to save a fallen plant. Here is the last thing I want to say, and it is actually the most important part of all of this. Mid-May is when little problems are still little. Yellowing leaves spreading upward, curling that does not recover by evening, spots you have not seen before. These are all easy to deal with right now and expensive to ignore until June. Pay attention this week. Walk your garden slowly. The plants will tell you what is going on if you actually look. The difference between a gardener who pulls a handful of tomatoes all season and one who cannot keep up with the harvest is almost never the variety they planted or the soil they started with. It is almost always what they did or did not do in this specific window. Mid-May. When the roots are establishing, the flower clusters are forming, and the structure of the whole season is being decided while everything above ground still looks calm. This is where serious tomato harvests are built. Most people miss this window completely. Do not be one of them. If this helped you, hit that like button right now because it genuinely helps other gardeners find this channel. Subscribe if you are not already because we are heading into the best part of the growing season and there is a lot more coming. Drop a comment below and tell me what you are growing this year. Varieties, location, setup, whatever you want to share. I read every single one, and if you have got a friend growing tomatoes this summer, send them this video. It might save their whole season.